Imagine waking up in a hospital and learning that, for a few minutes, you were officially dead. Now imagine that, during that time, you witnessed something that would change your life forever. In today's video, you'll learn the story of an ordinary man who was clinically declared dead, and returned with an account that challenges everything we know about spirituality, consciousness, and the afterlife. He didn't just see lights or have strange sensations. He claims to have encountered Jesus. And what he heard in that encounter could transform how you view life, death, and the purpose of existence. If you believe there is more to life than meets the eye, then like this video, subscribe to the channel, and share it with someone who needs to hear this message. Here we explore the mysteries of the soul, the deepest accounts of those who crossed the border between the physical and spiritual worlds, and return to tell the tale. Prepare yourself for an intense journey, full of suspense, revelations, and a spiritual climax that will keep you hooked until the very last second. Let's discover together what happens when the heart stops, but consciousness continues. Our featured character this time was the type of man who trusted logic more than faith. As a logistics manager at a large company in Denver, Colorado, his life revolved around spreadsheets, deadlines, and productivity. Married and the father of a 6-year-old girl, he prided himself on being a present provider, although he rarely found time to reflect on spiritual matters. When someone spoke about God, he listened respectfully, but kept his distance. "I don't need religion to be a good person," he often said. That Tuesday afternoon, everything seemed as expected. The sky was clear, the traffic was flowing smoothly, and he was thinking about the next day's appointments. But suddenly, a sharp, crushing pain gripped his chest. Cold sweat trickled down his forehead, and his hands began to tremble. He thought it was an anxiety attack, something he'd experienced before. But this time it was different. In seconds, he lost control of the car, which lightly hit the curb. Then he passed out at the wheel. Rescued by a passing motorist, he was rushed to the nearest hospital. Doctors diagnosed an acute myocardial infarction. During emergency procedures, his heart stopped. For exactly 6 minutes, he was clinically dead. The monitors showed a straight line. The doctors struggled to bring him back, but at that moment, our character was no longer there. He couldn't see the doctors. He couldn't hear the sounds of the machines. Everything had disappeared. Instead, he found himself in a space of absolute silence, a void without form, without color, without time. But curiously, there was no fear. Only a strange feeling of full awareness. And it was in that silence, on that threshold between worlds, that her true journey began. The man recounts that, after the absolute silence, came an indescribable feeling of lightness. He wasn't floating as in a dream, but he also didn't feel the ground beneath his feet. It was as if his consciousness were suspended in a formless, timeless, limitless space. There was no pain, no fear, only a strange peace that seemed to envelop everything. Gradually, a soft darkness began to form around them, not threatening but profound, as if the universe were at rest. And then, in the distance, a light appeared. But it wasn't an ordinary light. It seemed alive, pulsating, as if it had a will of its own. He felt drawn to it, as if he were being called by name, even without hearing any sound. The light grew as he approached, and with it, a feeling of warmth enveloped him. It was as if that light knew every part of him, his fears, his flaws, his deepest desires. As he drew closer, he realized he was not alone. There was a presence there. A figure standing, enveloped in a light that did not blind, but comforted. The man tried to understand what he was seeing, but there was no doubt, it was Jesus. Not like the images he had seen in paintings or films, but like a pure, intense essence that radiated love and authority at the same time. The eyes of that figure did not merely look, they pierced through. It was as if Jesus saw everything that our character was, everything that he had been, and everything that he could still be. He didn't speak with words. He spoke with his presence. And the man understood, without any sound being necessary, that he was before something eternal. Something that knew his soul better than he knew himself. There, in that instant, the journey ceased to be merely a spiritual one. It became an encounter with truth. Our character was confronted with a presence that demanded no explanation. There was no judgment, only revelation. He wasn't watching his life as one watches a film. He was feeling it. Each moment returned with emotional intensity, as if he were reliving it all, but with heightened awareness. He not only saw what he had done, he felt the effect his actions had on others. It was a profound sensory experience, impossible to translate into words. He saw his daughter crying on nights when he didn't come home. He felt the loneliness of his wife trying to keep the family together while he was lost in his work. He noticed the stares of ignored colleagues, the pleas for help he didn't hear, the hugs he didn't give. And in each of these scenes, there was one constant: Jesus was there. Not as an accuser, but as a silent witness. Observing, accompanying, loving. The voice that wasn't spoken but felt echoed within him. You lived as if time were infinite. But every second has a purpose. The man was overcome by a mixture of regret and gratitude. Regret for everything that was missed. Gratitude for being there, having the chance to understand. There was no condemnation, there was an invitation. A call to live differently. To see life as a mission, not as routine. He understood that true wealth lies not in what you accumulate, but in what you share. That time is not an inexhaustible resource, and that every gesture has eternal weight. In that instant, our friend knew, it was not the end. It was the beginning. And Jesus' gaze, full of mercy, confirmed it. In the presence of Jesus, he began to see images that did not belong to the past. They were fragments of the future. He saw his daughter, now a teenager, sitting alone in her room, questioning her faith, seeking answers that no one seemed willing to offer. He watched his aging wife battle a silent illness, struggling to hold on to hope as the world around them seemed to crumble. And then, unfamiliar faces began to appear. People in hospitals, in shelters, on empty streets, all with something in common. Eyes that cried out for comfort, for direction, for a word of life. You can come back, Jesus said, with a serenity that pierced his soul. But you must choose to live with purpose. The man felt, in that instant, that the choice was real. He could move on, immersing himself in an indescribable peace, where there was no pain, no time, no weight whatsoever. Or he could return, carrying the memory of what he saw and heard, and transform his life into an instrument of love and healing. He hesitated. The peace was tempting. It was like being on the edge of a calm ocean, where everything made sense. But the love for his family, the responsibility he now understood, and the certainty that his mission had not yet begun, all of this pulled him back. He looked at Jesus, as one who seeks the strength to say goodbye to paradise. And then he heard, "I will be with you, even when you cannot see me." The light began to recede, slowly and gently. Our character felt himself being pulled, as if falling from a high place, traversing layers of reality. The silence gave way to a distant sound, then to voices, then to pain. And then, he opened his eyes. He was back. But he was no longer the same. Surrounded by doctors and nurses, the man awoke with tears in his eyes and could hardly believe what he was seeing. After 6 minutes of clinical death, he was alive. But something in his gaze revealed that it wasn't just his body that had returned, it was his soul that had been touched. He wept without understanding exactly why. It wasn't pain, nor confusion. It was a profound peace, as if he had returned from a place where everything made sense. At the same time, he felt an inexplicable urgency, as if each second now had a different weight. In the following days, our friend began to share what he had experienced. Some listened with skepticism, others with tears in their eyes. He wasn't trying to convince anyone, he was just telling his story. And the more he spoke, the more he felt he needed to understand what had happened. He picked up a Bible for the first time, and each verse seemed to speak directly to his experience. Words he had felt in the light were there, written centuries ago, as if they had been meant for him. The transformation was radical. He left his managerial position, abandoned the corporate routine, and began dedicating his time to people in vulnerable situations. He visited hospitals, talked to grieving families, brought food to shelters, and above all, shared his story with anyone willing to listen. He wasn't seeking applause or followers. He simply wanted to fulfill what had been entrusted to him in that celestial encounter. And every day, even in moments of silence, I felt that Jesus was near. Not visible, but present. Like a breeze that cannot be seen, but can be felt. Like a light that does not blind, but guides. Our character not only returned to life, he returned with purpose. And his mission was only beginning. Today he is seen by many as a transformed man, not by fame or status, but by a serenity that seems to come from somewhere else. He walks lightly, speaks calmly, and exudes a peace that is contagious to those around him. But he himself doesn't consider himself special. "I'm just someone who had the chance to see what many ignore," he often says. His story, however, took on a life of its own. It spread through churches, support groups, spiritual gatherings, and even radio programs. People of different faiths are moved when they hear him, not by spectacle, but by the truth he carries in his gaze. What's most impressive is that our friend described details of Jesus' figure that coincide with accounts from people in different parts of the world, even though he had never studied theology. He speaks of a living light, of eyes that pierce the soul, of a presence that needs no words to be understood. He mentions phrases that he later discovered were in the scriptures, as if they had been whispered directly to his spirit. And when he speaks, there is no doubt, he has experienced something profound, something that changed his essence. His life became a living testament. He doesn't preach, he lives. He doesn't impose, he inspires. For our character, death was not the end, it was the gateway to a greater truth. A truth he carries with him every day with humility and purpose. His mission continues, to inspire those who have lost faith, to comfort those in pain, to transform those seeking meaning. And he sums it all up in a phrase he repeats with conviction: life only makes sense when you understand that you are not alone, and that someone much greater is waiting for you. And now, after hearing this story, I ask you, what would you do if you had a second chance? Our friend had the opportunity to go back and transform his life. But you, are you taking advantage of yours? Let us know in the comments if you've been living your life the right way. Perhaps you've never had a near-death experience, but we all face moments when we feel something greater is calling us. It could be deep pain, loss, or even an emptiness we can't explain. And in those moments, the presence of Jesus can be more real than we imagine. This video isn't just about a supernatural experience. It's about purpose, about love, about redemption, about understanding that each day is an opportunity to live with more intention, more faith, and more connection to what truly matters. If this story touched your heart, leave a comment below. Share it with someone who needs to hear this message. And if you want to continue exploring real-life stories that show death is not the end, it's just the beginning of something bigger, subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications. And remember, even when everything seems dark, there is a light waiting for you. And that light has a name: Jesus. On our channel we have many other stories that will make you reflect, feel, and believe, just as I believe this one did to you. Go check it out. See you next time.